Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for joining with us today. We're here to outline the Senate's 23 to 25 biennial budget, and that proposal follows our promise to keep spending in check. And in the first year of the biennium, the budget appropriates $29.8 billion, and in year two, it appropriates $30.9 billion. As we continue down the road of what economists have dubbed a slow session, the Senate budget proceeds with caution. It infuses dollars into key reserves like the Rainy Day Fund, the Inflation Reserve, our State Disaster Relief Fund, and the Medicaid Contingency Fund. At the same time, the budget benefits North Carolinians by further cutting the personal income tax rate to help ease inflationary pains that are being felt by taxpayers. The Senate budget also makes an effort to target funds toward mitigating industry workforce shortages and improving state employee recruitment and retention initiatives. Critical government operations are also modernized by increasing rates and fees that haven't been raised in decades. Last year, we created the Stabilization and Inflationary Reserve to prepare for the recession. This year, we infused that reserve with an additional $900 million for a total of $1.9 billion in that reserve. Additionally, by the end of the first year of the biennium, our state's rainy day fund will reach $5 billion. We look to the future by increasing reserves for water and sewer projects, economic development, and establishing a transformative endowment to facilitate homegrown innovation and research. In addition to targeted raises in certain hard-to-fill positions and labor market adjustment reserves, state employees will receive a 5% pay raise over the biennium. Teachers will receive an average 4.5% raise over the biennium. This budget increases starting pay for teachers by almost 11%. For a teacher who starts teaching this fall, they will see a nearly 15% increase in their pay by the end of the biennium. Last year, we were able to increase starting teacher pay to $37,000. That starting pay will move to $39,000 in 23-24, $41,000 in 24-25. And those numbers do not include the state-funded local supplement, which in many counties increases teacher pay by $5,000 per year. By the end of the biennium, average teacher pay will be $59,121. This keeps us on par with neighboring states. The increase to starting teacher pay, along with the UNC system keeping tuition flat at our universities, should help encourage more adults to pursue teaching as a profession. Last year, we started an initiative to give state agencies more flexibility to determine merit-based raises to help retain employees. We heard great feedback on that initiative, so we've doubled that amount for community colleges and state agencies. With our surplus, we're able to speed up planned tax cuts and further reduce the tax burden on North Carolinians. The budget cuts taxes by $1.2 billion for all North Carolina families and businesses over the next 2 years. This accelerates the scheduled reduction of the personal income tax, dropping it to 4.5% in 2024 and ultimately to 2.49% by 2030. This results in $6.6 billion in tax savings for North Carolinians over the next 5 years. Those are just some of the top-level some top-level information about the budget. I'm going to turn it over to Senator Brent Jackson for additional details.
Thank you, Senator Berger. Good afternoon, everyone. Last year, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina was tasked with $1 million study of potential new mega sites. Based on the success of that initial study, the study has been broadened to include sites now with fewer than 1,000 acres. This will help expand the availability of economic development opportunities by large land swaths of land. Additionally, this budget includes $10 million in reserves to support local governments conduct their due diligence on new mega sites identified in the study funded last year and making those sites shovel ready. We need to extend economic vitality into every corner of this state. To do so, we must take a visionary approach to creating jobs in our rural communities. The Senate budget allocates $1.4 billion to improve applied research outputs at the UNC system schools and to help commercialize the result of that research. Simply put, we are leveraging our state surplus to help develop homegrown innovations. Importantly, this initiative will partner with UNC school systems outside of the triangle as well. The initiative is partly a bid to leverage the UNC system for rural economic development and partly a bid to improve North Carolina's competitive position relative to peer states. If approved in the final budget, the funding will be available for drawdown by the NC Innovation, a nonprofit organization chaired by retired Truist Financial Corporation CEO Kelly King. For much of the past year, a leading national economic research firm was in the field conducting extensive qualitative and quantitative research on North Carolina's innovation ecosystem. The data reveal good news and bad news. The good news, our population centers are landing major economic development projects, and North Carolina is an absolute powerhouse on research and development funding. Our $13 billion in annual academic and industry research and development ranks ahead of the national average of most of our peer competitor states. However, the outputs of that R&D funding doesn't measure up to the size of our research base. Despite top universities and human capital, we significantly lag our peers and national averages in commercializing our research, especially in areas outside of urban centers, our rural North Carolina. NC Innovation will deploy a data center model to target applied research towards actual market needs, then help commercialize that research. This will help generate homegrown companies that will stay in North Carolina and hire North Carolinians. While the major economic development announcements our state has had over the last few years are critical and will create thousands of jobs, NC Innovation will partner with our world-class universities to build an engine to create homegrown industries and jobs of all shapes and sizes in our rural areas for decades to come. In our agriculture budget, we provide almost $19 million for a new agricultural manufacturing and processing initiative to incentivize the development of food processing facilities across the state. The intent of the initiative is that with seed capital funding, more agricultural community manufacturing facilities will be located closer to North Carolina farmers, which in turn will increase the value of the products they grow. We also increased funding for the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services 12 research stations in both years of the biennium for new equipment and operational support. The budget also includes $20 million for the Streamflow Rehabilitation Assistance Program for ongoing restoration and maintenance of streams in support of flood mitigation efforts. There is also $6 million non-recurring each year, distributed equally to 6 food banks in North Carolina, and $100,000 for administrative costs split between those 6. We also allocate additional state match dollars to bring down enhanced federal receipts for water and wastewater projects, grid resiliency, and to address PFAS and other emerging compounds and lead service lines in water systems. We establish policies that will benefit natural gas pipeline developers by prohibiting the Department of Environmental Quality from refusing to accept a permit application or issue a permit on the condition that these developers must first receive another environmental permit, except when required by state or federal law. Additionally, we cut red tape by reducing processing times for air permits issued by DEQ and expand the scope of construction activities that may take place prior to businesses obtaining an air permit. In working with DEQ to reduce bureaucracy for the regulated community, the Senate budget fulfills DEQ's request to increase permitting application fees and other annual fees that haven't been raised in decades. And now I ask Senator Heiss to come up and talk about some of our Health and Human Services budget items. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. With health care costs consistently rising faster than inflation, the Senate budget gives the state treasurer more cost control levers to achieve savings for the state health plan, such as reimbursing lower priced premiums for state employees and their dependents who opt to purchase health coverage outside of the state health plan. This will be effective January 1st, 2024. The budget also establishes a savings target for the state health plan of $125 million in 2026. To achieve these savings, urban hospital licensure is contingent upon meeting the requirement in the future for the benefit of state health plan policyholders. After this budget becomes law, Medicaid expansion will go live. The federal sign-on bonus for expanding Medicaid results in an additional $1.6 billion of non-recurring influx of general fund dollars, based on 5% of Medicaid costs. The Senate budget prioritized these non-recurring funds by focusing on transformational behavioral health infrastructure needs and addressing the healthcare workforce shortage. We also look forward to our UNC system schools to address these shortages. We included $20 million for UNC Pembroke's new healthcare-oriented programs, $16 million to support healthcare degree programs at ECU, including expanding the Brody School of Medicine class size, increasing the number of nursing degrees at the College of Nursing, doubling the size of physician assistance program, and growing the service clinic under the health psychology doctoral program. Additional nursing facilities at community colleges and the UNC system will receive a minimum 10% for salary increases. As part of the Medicaid expansion bill, we started slowly chipping away at our certificate of needs laws. This budget unequivocally takes a sledgehammer to those archaic and unnecessary certificate of need laws that remain on the book. These common sense changes will build on the CON reforms we included in the Medicaid expansion package and drive down costs and increase availability for patients. In that package, CON was repealed for ambulatory surgical centers, MRI machines in counties population of more than 125,000 to protect rural hospitals in smaller counties. We take this a step further in the budget and remove the unnecessary CON barriers and allow ambulatory surgical centers and facilities within our MRI machines to serve in all counties that do not have a hospital. We also repealed the CON requirements for mobile MRI machines, linear accelerators, physician office-based vascular access, and kidney disease treatment centers. Additionally, the package allows single specialty ASCs to change to multi-specialty without having to go through the CON process. There is also a new CON exemption for relocating with an existing health service or facility within the same county. It's way past time to do away with certificate of needs laws, and this budget takes significant steps towards that. Beyond that, we include $15 million in each year of the biennium for free and charitable clinics to provide care to low-income families and individuals across the state. To open 350 additional innovative waiver slots, we allocate an additional $10 million in each year of the biennium for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Coupled with that is $60 million in each year to increase the wages of direct care workers who provide services to individuals on the state's innovation waivers. There are $50 million in each year of the biennium to permanently retain at least half of the COVID-19 add-on amount in the Medicaid reimbursement rate for skilled nursing facilities. And we include $110 million to increase behavioral health provider rates on a recurring basis. And Senator Lee, it's now your turn.
Thank you, Senator Heiss, saving the best for last. As many of y'all know, the education budget makes up over 50% of our appropriations, and in nearly every budget, since Republicans have earned the majority, we've increased funding for education in a very methodical way. As many of you know, school choice has been a core priority for the Republican General Assembly, as many of you know from a press conference we had not too long ago with Opportunity Scholarships and Senate Bill 406 that creates this sliding scale of availability for scholarships for students to attend private schools. That's something you're going to see in this budget as well. The budget creates a new school health personnel allotment. As many of you know, we had something called instructional support. We ended up pulling out the school psychologists in the last biennium, and now we're moving nurses, counselors, and social workers, and then adding on top of that another $10 million of recurring, which hopefully will generate over 120 more nurses, counselors, and social workers. We didn't think they needed to be in the same allotment as a media specialist, and so that's why we moved along that line. The budget continues our focus and commitment to increasing security for our schools by including $35 million in each year of the biennium, $70 million in total for school safety grants. And remember, this isn't just for SROs and what you traditionally think of school safety. It's to help students in crisis, and has some other programs that are incredibly important to our school systems. The community colleges are on the forefront, the leading edge of training North Carolinians for high-tech manufacturing jobs that we're seeing here in North Carolina, and that's why the budget provides about $70 million to develop and expand programs and courses in high-demand career fields, including nursing and other health-related programs. It includes $5.25 million in each year of the biennium to provide aids to students who are on track to graduate but are at the risk of dropping out. And those funds are really focused and targeted to Elizabeth City State, Fayetteville State, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, UNC Asheville, UNC Pembroke, and Winston-Salem State. This budget increases funding for needs-based scholarships for public schools and universities to increase financial aid for community college students as well, over $12.5 million recurring and $25 recurring in the second year. As someone who's from the Cape Fear region, Wilmington, North Carolina, and someone who's worked on the Water Safety Act since I think 2017 or 18, we've included the Water Safety Act of 2023, which was in a bill that I introduced to provide significant funding for research, discovering new mitigation tools, and to help the North Carolina Collaboratory continue its partnership by issuing grants to some of our research institutions to address PFAS and other emerging compounds. So thank you very much, and I'll turn this back over to Senator Berger.
And if I can find my place, well, even if I can't, I want to thank our appropriations chairs. There's so much more included in the budget. It's very difficult for us to give you every detail, but it will be in committee tomorrow. It will be online at 4 o'clock today, and votes are expected on this Wednesday and Thursday. Another scheduling matter, so that we are giving notice, maybe as I speak, to the Democrats that we will have Senate Bill 20 on the calendar tomorrow for the override vote. And with that, we will be happy to take your questions.
You mentioned the acceleration of the personal income rate cut. Is there any other tax cuts in this budget?
There are some targeted things dealing with. I think we extended the airline fuel exemption for large airplanes. We also have a reduction or an elimination of the sales tax on certain parts that are used in the repair of airplanes. I think those are the highlights as far as the tax reductions are concerned. I think our calendar will come out, and we are scheduled to start at 4 o'clock.
On the NC Innovation Fund, did I hear correctly that was 1.4 billion?
1.4. I think it may be 1.425 billion.
Is that the full vote of what this
In consultation with members and doing some checking, I think what they were asking for was $250 million a year for, was it 10 years? And our thinking was that it was better to go ahead and endow that as opposed to an annual appropriation. Travis? So we also have included the labor market adjustment reserve, and that will enable the agencies and the community colleges to look at areas where they have particular shortages and provide additional pay raises there. There was one other piece on.
State employees.
Yeah. Well, also in the community colleges, there's a significant amount to provide raises for instructors in certain health fields. How much? $96 million. In a targeted fashion, it should address some of the issues that are out there.
It's double what we had last year.
That is not on the education side, no. Well, there's a significant raise overall for beginning teachers. We keep hearing that there's a real problem as far as getting folks into the teaching profession. So by raising the beginning pay from 37 to 39 and then to 41, plus the additional money that in many counties is a $5,000 state-sponsored supplement for teachers. The effective beginning pay raise for teachers in North Carolina is more than $46,000 in the second year of the biennium.
What about retention for teachers? I mean, it's raises for starting, but those that have been around for a while, and the same with state employees since their turnover rate is.
Yeah, so we have the step increases that the teachers will receive. We also have the raise that is across the board. There's also a fund for the advanced teaching roles that that program is being expanded, which will provide for lead teachers $10,000 a year, and for participating teachers, I think it's $3,000 a year.
Can you talk a little bit more about the certificate of need changes? So you're talking about taking away limitations on MRIs.
I'll let you deal with that.
A little bit on that?
So currently where the limitation was counties under 125,000. If you were over that, you were not under CON. This would change it so that the counties under 125,000 that do not have a hospital located in that county could also expand those services.
And then the other question, something about this, a lot coming at us, state health plan savings. Talk a little bit more about that and how that's supposed to be accomplished.
This would be a matter of contracting. This is different and exclusive from the savings promised for a change of provider who recently bid for that. This would be in addition to that and would allow the state treasurer to enter into those contracts and would tie the licensure of urban hospitals to make sure that the treasurer achieves his savings of $125 million in those contracts.
So is that sort of compelling them to be more transparent with their costs? Like how does that happen?
So I think that's a large part of the process the treasurer is going through and asking for. This is a specific tie to the amount of cost to the state and the state health plan that's coming in.
I have questions about that too. So are you saying that if in the next round of state health plan negotiations, we don't save $125 million,
I am saying that they would have to meet that amount of savings to the state in order to continue for their license. This is separate from the round of negotiations with a new provider.
So is that the clear pricing project that the treasurer's been working on?
That is tied to the clear pricing project.
I guess I just don't understand. It's $125 million spread over the entire state, which is X number of hospital systems. Is there an individual target for each hospital system where they lose their license if they don't hit it?
The target is the savings overall for any of those hospitals to be.
Every hospital in the state get unlicensed?
It is limited to urban hospitals.
I do not understand how this works at all.
We'll follow up. Then that's
Well, I think
coming in.
it's really, really important.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
This was coming in. If you have a different question, this was saying if there is not 125 savings, it would bar the relicensure of urban hospitals.
Every urban hospital in the state?
Yes,
Over what timetable?
over their licensing time per day.
Okay, and can a hospital operate in this state if it is not licensed?
No.
So you would shut down hospitals if certain savings are not met on the state health plan?
The put here is that the state health plan would save $125 million.
Or urban hospitals in the state shut down?
The state health plan will save $125 million. I think that's pretty clear compared to the alternative.
What qualifies as urban hospitals? You have like the large cities wanting to.
I believe in a county over 225, if I'm not mistaken, is the number that's on there, but I'll get the specific number to where, but that's the number that sticks in my head is population of 225.
There's currently, obviously, some things in the budget the governor's not gonna have heartburn about the school choice expansion and, not having the types of raises that he had hoped for. What other provisions do you want us to tell us about where he's gonna have some heartburn? And, like, for instance, the SBI, will the SBI be, moved out of, crime control and public safety? I gave up a long time ago trying to read the governor's mind. He'll see the budget. I'm sure we'll hear from him.
What about the SBI?
What about SBI?
Uh,
I don't think, it's not in there, is it? Yeah.
There's significant pay.
Greenhouse gas emissions provision in there as well. The cap and trade thing that the House had in its budget to prevent the governor from hearing those.
I believe there are some things in there dealing with permitting, but I don't think that specific,
I don't think it is either, not on greenhouse gas.
yeah.
On the transport side, there was
Let's try to raise hands and, that sort of thing, because, some folks are waiting and, yeah, okay, I'll go to you and back there.
the, House proposed 300 mil for airport, a small airport capital. I haven't been able to get to the bottom of how that got in their version of the bill. I'm wondering if there's anything similar on the Senate side, why, or if not.
Don't think there's that sort of an earmark in the Senate budget, Senate version of the budget.
Is there anything in there as far as stabilizing the childcare industry or childcare access when it comes to attracting different businesses to the state?
So I think the rate increases that we have for early childhood are in here that are dealing with that. And we have directed the federal funds that we still have that were previously used for salary enhancements to continue to be used for that purpose.
Does the bill have anything to do with the sports gambling bill that passed in the House and/or casinos or video lottery terminals?
There are no gaming provisions, in the bill.
I just want to get back to what John and Travis were asking regarding the state employees. So under this proposal, do you have any degree of confidence that this is going to reverse the trend of people leaving their jobs with the state? Is this going to
So, y'all have heard me say multiple times that, there's a labor shortage across the economy, not just in state government. And, one of the, levers that we can deal with, is salary. And, we believe that, because of the labor market adjustment reserves and the raises that are in here, we will, utilize that lever, hopefully to great effect, but time will tell. Until we get to the point where we have enough people who want to work in the market, I think we're going to continue to see in state government and in the private sector. One of the last things that we want to do is create a situation where state government raises pay so much that it exacerbates the larger economy as far as availability of workers.
CON law reform was a sticking point last year with Medicaid expansion, and that didn't happen. So it happened this year with some of that adjusted, but now that it's rolled into the budget, it sounds like, could that be another point of controversy with the House that slows down Medicaid expansions?
I suspect there'll be a number of things in this version of the budget that will create conflict with what the House did. And we'll work that out. We intend to pass our version of the budget this week. That'll set up conference, because I'm pretty sure that the House will not concur in the changes that we make. So even if it takes us 3 weeks in conference, that's still the middle of June getting it done. So I think we're on track to get the budget done before the end of the fiscal year. Sure.
So last year's Medicaid, both chambers were pretty firm in what they wanted, and we didn't quite see compromise there. Could the same thing happen, where whatever's in the Senate budget on CON law, you want it to stay the way it is?
I don't anticipate us reaching a stalemate with the House. We'll see what happens, but I don't anticipate that.
Last week, there was a fiscal note posted showing that there is anticipated loss of state funding to traditional public schools with opportunity scholarship vouchers. I was wondering if there's anything in the budget to address that with the particular impact in rural counties.
So if I'm recalling the study that you mentioned, is something about $200 million. Just remember, for every child that opts for an opportunity scholarship and goes to a private school, that child is not a child being educated in the public schools. And it makes no sense to me to provide money to the traditional public schools for children that they are no longer educating. Dawn.
If you were Senator Lee, you can talk more about what Senator Lee, you were saying about moving allotments, meaning you can hire more school nurses and counselors. What will that mean for?
So the way the allotment system worked previously is you had a bucket where you had the healthcare-related fields, counselors, nurses, school psychologists, along with media specialists, and it was called instructional support. We moved the school psychologists out in the last budget cycle and assigned designated funding. And so now we're moving some of the other counseling, healthcare-related folks into that allotment as well. And then we're adding funding to it, and that will enable us to make sure that we're having the ability to fund more across the state.
What will that look like numbers-wise? Does that mean like every school is going to get a nurse?
So it's going to be based on the allotment system. I think we're going to have over 120 additional spots within that particular allotment. The problem in the past is if it was an instructional support allotment and you poured more money into it, there were things other than school nurses, psychologists, and things like that. So we segregated it out. So as we made those investments, we would know that we would have what we were shooting for with those investments.
Final question.
On the tax cuts, Senator Berger, you and some other finance chairs had a bill last month that had made the 2.49% effective in 27. This is in 2030. Why the delay?
We wanted to smooth out the revenue side of things. As you know, these things are always scored on a static model. It's our belief that in a dynamic economy and a growing economy that the static projections as far as revenue are concerned are going to run short as they have over the past 7 or 8 years. So, but to address some concerns there, obviously the goal was to get below 2.5, and that's what we do, and it matches up with the corporate income tax rate going to 0. And thank y'all. Travis, I'm happy to talk to you. Nobody else does, but I mean, I'm happy to talk to you.
Senator Jackson described some stuff on natural gas and air permitting that sounded really important, but I think what's in my mind right now is y'all accused the governor a few years back of trying, forcing Duke Energy to put money into the slush funds of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline over that permit. How is is that different from demanding savings from hospitals in the state health plan or pulling their licenses? How are those two things different?
The intended provision, and as it will work, will reduce the cost of, to the state health plan of $125 million. From the information from the treasurer and his plans were going, those costs are growing out of control for this state and far exceeding anything we're seeing in inflation or others. This says we will reduce those by $125 million, a small portion of the expenses of the state health plan, and it puts in provisions that guarantee that that will occur.
And Travis, remember, we recently passed the HASP provision, which infuses how many $billion into the hospital systems of the state?
Almost four, yeah.
Right.
I'm not saying hospitals.
We've got to, certainly not. We've got to do something to address the increase. Thank y'all.